in jail. That would reduce suffering a little.
Thank you. Next question.
Morality question for Dr. Brooke. As you said, at the basis of the laissez-faire system is the idea that we are all free, and I have an absolute right to freedom, free to do what I want with my life, and I have no obligation to anybody else. So why should I recognize anybody else's right to freedom? Because if I can coerce you, or if I can steal from you and get away with it, why shouldn't I? Since equality is bogus, what's my motivation to?
Okay, good question. This is a deep question as to, I guess, where does my freedom end and someone else's begin? Would be perhaps one way of putting it, yeah.
There is no meaning to the concept of freedom if you are free to coerce other people. So you can't be free. It's meaningless to say I'm free and I'm going to enslave other people. You've created a system in which you've allowed enslavement and you're going to be next. That's not the system I'm advocating for. I'm advocating for a system of government, and I'm not an anarchist. I believe in government, where government protects us from, maybe you chose, maybe you decided it would be good for me to steal from other people. No, there's a government there to protect other people from your custom. Now, I believe that morality, that morally, your question I guess was about morality, that morally, it is never in your interest, never in your interest, and I don't have time, 2 minutes to prove this, never in your interest to lie, cheat, steal, and coerce other people. That it never benefits your life to actually go out there and exploit other people. So I believe in self-interest, the self-interest that says that you should not sacrifice yourself for other people, nor have other people sacrifice for you. Now, why is that true? You know, read Ayn Rand, read my book. But it's because of where we gain human happiness, what human happiness requires, what success as a human being, what flourishing as a human being requires. It requires self-esteem, it requires honesty and justice, and a lot of these other concepts. It fundamentally requires reason, and you can't reason yourself to coerce other people.
Quickly.
Okay.
Quickly.
Okay. Well, just in kind of response to that, well, there's the example of NC State, because it's funded by the government, which is coercing people. And I feel pretty happy going here, and I think a lot of other people would too, even though technically what we're doing is coercion, and according to you, wrong.
No, I don't think you going here is wrong. I mean, this is the system you're in. Not going to NC State would be ridiculous. Not driving on the roads because they coerced funding, we paid for those roads, would be ridiculous. The fact is we live in a particular system, make the most of that system. I would only argue to you that in the big picture, if NC State was a private institution, but that the world was private, not just NC State, but the world was truly laissez-faire capitalism, NC State would be a better experience. It wouldn't be called NC State, but whatever it was called, it would be a better experience. Your life after graduation would be better. Your life before graduation would have been better, and your educational experience would be more rewarding. I can't prove that. There's no alternative universe here spinning around with laissez-faire capitalism on it. But that is my argument. Not that you're not enjoying yourself. Now, I'm having a great time living my life, in spite of the fact that we have a mixed economy. I just think I'd have an even better life if laissez-faire capitalism was.
Good answer, since you're here at NC State. Okay. Second from last question.
All right, this one can be to both speakers. How does each system efficiently guarantee the necessary information for each individual to make the most efficient decision? And that's to say that it's the best decision for them as well as the best decision for society.
Yeah, good. So people require information to make decisions. How is your system provide them with sufficient information so that they can make these wise decisions?
So we can start. So I think that the mixed economy doesn't presume that there's complete information among individuals. That's one of the sources of suffering that emerges. We do have a couple of other problems and issues. So one of the things we try to do is promote education because that does expand information and allow people to make better decisions. The other thing is to recognize that because there's not perfect information among the citizenry, there's going to be even less perfect information among government policymakers, and to be constrained in in the policies that you're willing to adopt. And so that is an important part of being mixed and not falling down the slippery slope towards socialism, is to be constrained, and is to say that we are humble in trying to do what we do, and we want to be sure, or at least be as confident as we can be, that we are alleviating suffering and not expanding.
So let me just say, free markets, my position is not assume that people have somehow endowed in them perfect and complete information. They don't. That's a wonderful profit opportunity for somebody to come in and help provide me with the information that I need. Information is a tradable good. It is something that there's a profit motive to be provided. You can see this in financial markets. There are a lot of private entities that come about to try to provide information. They compete with one another. And when we try to constrain that competition, as government always does, we get lousy information because there's no consequences to failure. Think rating agencies, only 3, all government approved, all government, you have to use them, you have no choice, there's no competition. You get lousy information. When government intervenes, it distorts the information. For example, there's a story right now about the federal government wants to make sure that kids eat healthy food in cafeterias at school. We all want kids to eat healthy food in cafeterias. But who's to say what healthy food is? Now, do we trust the government? Now, what are the incentives that the government, look at the food pyramid. You know how they determine the food pyramid? Well, the corn lobby comes in and advocates for corn. And the meat lobby comes in and advocates for meats. And the milk lobby comes in and advocates for milk. There's no science that goes into this. It's pressure groups. That's how government functions. Government functions by pressure groups. And it's a consensus. It's some kind of middle of the road. Instead of letting parents and maybe scientists and maybe people who actually know something about nutrition make these decisions. And I'm not saying this particular decision by the education department is wrong because education's a mess, But in a private educational system, you'd get the filtered information, the marketplace would filter it. The marketplace would filter it based on our values, based on our consumer values. So I'm never going to be able to guarantee that everybody has perfect and complete information. I don't think that's the right standard. But I think that the free market provides more and significantly better information than does a mixed economy.
And our last question.
What a good.
Hi, my question is mainly directed to Dr. Brooks, but it could also be for either of you. In a very kind of extreme hypothetical situation of war, would you ever support a draft? And if not, how do you propose to raise an army under a purely capitalist economy?
That's interesting. So the question is, do you agree with the military draft? And if not, then how are you going to raise an army when you needed to do so under a purely capitalist economy?
It's a good question. It's a personal question because I was actually drafted. I was enlisted in the Israeli army when I was 18, and everybody in Israel is enlisted. I am against the draft under all circumstances, in spite of that experience, or maybe because of it. No, in spite of it. I believe that, let me put it succinctly, a country that cannot raise a voluntary army necessary to defend itself doesn't deserve to exist.
You caught me unaware.
So the short answer is that the draft is one of the hardest choices that I have to make, and the choice that we should be the most humble about, but I wouldn't rule it out. And so the obvious problem, the obvious example we had is what to do about a situation like Nazism. And you have to take that problem very seriously, and you want to be very, very hesitant to engage, but there are times when you might even have to say that the actual security of the United States may not even indeed be threatened by Nazi Germany. But nonetheless, there is human suffering that we can alleviate, and arranging a draft will do that. And we understand the horribleness associated with the draft, forcing young boys to go to war. But we do the best we can to weigh the two ends of the suffering spectrum between allowing Nazism to expand and drafting to the army.
So this is good because I think we'll get a final contrast if we will. If Nazism was not a threat to the United States, imagine a scenario like that's hard because they clearly are a threat to the United States. The United States, in my view, should not go to war with the Nazis. That is, going to war to protect The suffering of people far away is not a legitimate reason for the United States to go to war, and certainly not a legitimate reason to force kids to go to that war. The only reason to go to war is self-defense, just like the only reason to intervene by force any time is to defend oneself or defend, you know, people from the initiation of force.
Maybe I'll say the last thing, like, of course, in the Cold War, with the example of Vietnam, or the Bush administration preemptive doctrine, self-defense can be incredibly broadly defined and may actually, you know, justify intervention a long, long way if you see it as defending the country. Okay, thank you so much. Before I ask you to put your hands together for the two tremendous panelists tonight, and I think it was really great, and I thank you all very much. Let me just make a quick plug for another event in this very room 2 weeks from tonight, Wednesday, April the 3rd at 7:30. Professor Luigi Zingalis from the University of Chicago will be presenting the 2013 John W. Pope Lecture that we hold every year annually at NC State. The title of Zingalis' talk is Capitalism for the People. It's going to be based upon a very well-received and very interesting book that he's written. If you enjoyed tonight, you will enjoy that. I would very much encourage you to come and hope to see you there. And with that, let's give Professor Smith and
I just want to say briefly, real quick, books will be for sale over here in the corner, $10 for a copy of Dr. Brooks' book. Thank you guys for coming.